What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today, before we start, I want to address a few things. I will not be doing any sign readings anymore. No more divine feminine, no more divine karmic readings, no more divine masculine, none of that shit. For one, because there's another reader that I admire a lot, and honestly, I did divine feminine's reading yesterday morning, and I went and I watched her channel that night, and the messages, they just sounded way too fucking similar, and it just did not sit well with me, and that's just not my place. I just choose not to do those type of readings anymore because I don't want to fucking sound like someone else. That's just not something that I want to fucking do. On top of that, I pick up energies of people that I don't fuck with, and I don't want to know what's going on in their life and shit like that. Like, I don't fucking care. So, secondly, I will stick to what I do best. So today I wanted to do someone else, but it's like spirit comes to me and they tell me what to do. So today we're going to get into Marilyn Monroe's life, what was going on around the time of her death. I asked her to channel that. She basically was extremely anxious at first, and I know in her life she had a lot of anxiety and stuff like that going on. She showed me Robert Kennedy and John F. Kennedy forcefully holding her down. Everybody has speculations about what happened to her in her death, about the whole enema thing and the overdose. I don't really know. Like, I know about her life, but at the same time, I don't. And then she was showing me them leaving out of the window. I don't know if that has shit to do with anything. I kept seeing a phone off of the hook, and she kept saying Mrs. Murray. I don't know who Mrs. Murray is, but I think that was the name of her housekeeper or something. It's like she was crying out for help or wanted to and couldn't. So we're going to get into this reading and see what she has to say. The first card that I pulled, when I looked at these cards, like, my stomach immediately dropped when I saw this one. Sorry if I'm talking fast, but the downloads are just coming in fast. The first card out is the snake. I know the FBI had something to do with this, allegedly. All of this shit is allegedly. Apparently back then, like, if you fucking did something wrong, like, they would just snipe your ass, and I'm picking up John F. Kennedy's death. We're not going to get into that. But basically, the FBI was like, if you don't take care of this shit, like, John and Robert had to take care of Marilyn and silence her because they basically did all of this shit and they were behind it. So if they didn't silence her, they were going to be silenced. And we all know in the end what happened with that. I'm going to say that they both felt bad and they didn't want to do it, but they had to. She's saying journal. They wanted to know where my journals were. I think Marilyn wrote in her journal. If you guys don't know, Marilyn used to have a lot of, like, mental issues, basically like depression, shit like that, and she would write in her journal basically to write her feelings out and stuff, and there was stuff in those journals that shouldn't have been in there. I don't know if they were ever found or what, but she's saying something about the FBI. The FBI was watching her. There was things being discussed over the phone. I guess the phone was, she's saying tapped, and I don't know if the president knew about this or not. She's saying FBI disgrace, like they disgraced John F. Kennedy or thought he was a disgrace. He would tell her things and never do them. I think even though Marilyn was in love with him, she kind of wanted to walk away because if you guys don't know, this man was married and he had a wife named Jackie, and I think he would tell Marilyn that he was going to leave Jackie, but he never was going to do that shit. I'm hearing betrayal. I'm hearing breadcrumbed. So this is something that he was saying, like I said, he was never going to do it. She thought about this a lot. She thought about what it would actually be like to be the president's wife. Like, I don't know, for some reason she saw herself as being the president's wife. It was a little delusional. I'm hearing borderline obsessive. I'm seeing her in that dress that she had to have sewed on when she sung Mr. President, Happy Birthday, Mr. President. I'm hearing possessiveness. So she was obsessed with John to the point to where she was possessive about it. He had to get away from her before word got out. And what was funny is this oracle card was stuck in my tarot card deck and it flew out into the floor. So I don't even know where it came from. It must have got lost in my deck, Passion, the last time I did a reading with it, which was weird. And I thought it was a tarot card that flew on the floor, but it was really an oracle. So with her and John, this whole love affair thing was a routine, and I know that she ended up messing around with Robert too. I don't know where that came into play, but I think it was between the time that she wasn't with John, like she just used Robert to fill in the void because that was the closest thing to John. Financial stability, working parent. John and Robert, I think both did have kids, but I do see money out here. I don't know if they were giving Marilyn money or if Marilyn was giving them money, but there is money involved. What I find funny right now is Marilyn still feels like she's being silenced even in her death. So I don't know if she's like, she's saying that she's never accepted it. Feeling trapped. She's enslaved to her death and never really passed on and moved past this. That happens a lot when you're brutally murdered and don't have a voice. That's what they're saying. Or she's saying that. She has some kind of remorse against Mrs. Murray. Like, why didn't she check on her? But she says that Mrs. Murray was being silenced. Someone distracted Mrs. Murray or something. I don't know. She's saying she can only say so much for my protection. And now I'm getting that dark, bottomless pit in my stomach. So this is dark Hollywood energy. This is just a warning. It was like a feeling of emptiness in her house. Mrs. Murray was there, but it was like she had no damn idea. She may have been cleaning the kitchen or something, or thought Marilyn was on the phone. She is trying to show me, but it's like I can only tap in but to so much. I'm hearing I'm at a loss. She's saying Mrs. Murray had nothing to do with this. They were working alone. At this point, I think she was separated from John. They weren't really in contact. She would call the White House and he wouldn't call her back. And he told her to never call the White House, but she did it anyway. He wanted control over the whole situation, and Marilyn was like really strong-willed. It's kind of like she didn't let a man tell her what to do. She was very stubborn. He told her time and time again that the affair between them was over, but she was not having it. Like, she was obsessed. John was pissed off at this point. He had to get rid of her. He would often have discussions about this with his brother on the phone, and the FBI was listening. Allegedly. Marilyn made this whole relationship up in her mind, but at the same time, John was breadcrumbing her and making her believe that maybe one day that there could be something when he wanted to deal with her, but there was never going to be anything. And she was like in grief about this. Like, she couldn't live with herself. Like, she wanted him and she was going to have him no matter what. I'm definitely seeing that she wasn't in the right state of mind. Like, this was an obsession. Like I said, she was determined. So that whole Mr. President birthday shit, like, she dressed like that on purpose. She used her sexuality basically to draw John in, and I'm picking up John had like a sex addiction or something like that, and I think I've seen something like that. She knew that's how she could get to him, was through sex basically, or using sexuality. Her looks. Obviously, you guys know how Marilyn used to look, you know what I'm saying? She's saying every man on earth wanted her. She could have anybody that she wanted. She could have any man that she wanted except John F. Kennedy, which left her heartbroken. I'm picking up frustration, like, if you can't have, I can't have you, nobody can. And like, she was gonna do anything to get to him, pretty much. And he was doing anything and everything to try to avoid her. And she was not gonna be ignored. She wasn't gonna be ignored. Like, he was gonna listen to everything that she had to say. She was gonna get to him regardless if Jackie found out or not. Oh, I have something for you, Jackie Bouvier. Marilyn was jealous of Jackie. She could never see what he saw in Jackie compared to her. She could offer everything that Jackie could. She's saying that she looked better than her, and basically she could provide all the love and everything that John needed, but he still didn't want her. He couldn't accept this. She couldn't wrap her mind around it. She couldn't figure out no matter why. Like, whatever she did, it was never enough. Like, he was never pleased. She was never going to be Jackie. Then you got stabbed in the back. I don't know why it seems like I'm holding up this card way longer than I was holding up any other card, so this is probably something she definitely wants to enforce. She's saying, I'm telling, I want the world to know about you, John. You manipulated me. She's saying hush money, so he probably tried to give her money to shut her up, but she was rich. She didn't need his money. Marilyn felt like John broke her heart and she wanted revenge for it, and that's why she was sleeping with Robert, but John didn't even give a fuck about that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, just added more fuel to the fire. Marilyn had a very, very hard time with accepting the fact that John didn't want her. So I'm seeing drinking and I'm seeing pills. So Marilyn would take stuff to try to keep him off of her mind so she could sleep. And when she would wake up, it would just be a nightmare. All over again. John on her mind. I'm having the feeling of like anxiety, like I want to puke, like she felt sick over this. I'm hearing, I'm gonna make you love me. So, I don't know, for some reason Marilyn thought like there was something that she could do to make John love her. Like she wanted to forcefully force him to love her, or, you know, some shit like that, and it was just never gonna happen. I definitely feel sick. So Marilyn could have been drinking a lot or taking a lot of pills. She definitely could have been throwing up around this time. Throwing up and trying to breathe through it. Coaching herself. Like the more sicker she would get, she'd just be like, Marilyn, you don't need John. You don't need John. But it's just like no matter how much she told herself this, she still continued to do the same shit. I'm hearing 1 foot in, 1 foot out. All right, I'm picking up on Mrs. Murray, I think. She was more like a mother to Marilyn, and she was worried about her, and she would check on her, and Marilyn would ensure Mrs. Murray that she was all right. I'm seeing Mrs. Murray rubbing Marilyn's back, but little did she know, there was unfinished business. Marilyn just knew way too much at this point. Okay, so I don't know if she was expecting John, but I do see him at her window, and she lets him in. For some reason, I'm picking up like she was really happy to see him because obviously she hasn't heard from him in a while. I'm hearing setup. It was all a setup. Robert enters the room through the window after John. She didn't see Robert at first. He covers her mouth and they both hold her down. They have a bag. I guess they say that they used an enema, so I'm seeing them force her down on the bed. One's covering her mouth and holding her down while the other one's doing the enema. I'm seeing a driver out on the other side of the house, a black old-time looking car. Something about an imagination, jealous, moody, and that Marilyn was going to pay for that. I'm hearing this was no accident. One of them is saying, I'm sorry, you know too much, Marilyn. She's struggling to fight back and she's crying. Oh my God, like I really don't like this. She can't breathe. I'm hearing against my will. She was crying out for help, but nobody could hear her. I'm seeing Mrs. Murray vacuuming. I don't know what time of night this was, or what or why the hell she was vacuuming this late. But it's not my job to question shit. Marilyn didn't listen to her intuition. She didn't repress her emotions, and now she had to pay for it. Now she feels stupid. I loved a man that didn't even give a fuck about me, and now I had to pay for that. No man I've ever been with gave a fuck about me though. Except Arthur. At least he was a real friend. Something I wanted so bad took my life in the end. I just keep seeing them holding her down. Like I cannot get this image out of my head. Like it must be something that she really wants to enforce. It's disgusting. It's animalistic. I don't know how anybody could have fucking did this to somebody. Like they held her down. I'm seeing like she was dressed in like a white, what do you call those? Like a nightgown or something like that. She's saying they knew this had to be quick. Authority, leadership, power, the FBI wanted it done. If they came back and it wasn't done, well, you knew what was going to happen with that. Allegedly. I'm hearing commander, chief in order, war. I have no idea if there was a war going on around this time or something like that, but the FBI was pissed off that John wasn't focused on his presidential duties. Back then, they really looked down on women, and they're saying, you let a woman get in the way. We swear to God, John, if you let the word get out. John thought he finally put me out of my misery. As they were killing me, I was thinking about forgiveness. How was I going to forgive myself for this? How was I going to give myself forgiveness for taking it too far, for caring about a man that didn't care about me, for calling the White House when he told me to stop. I was told to stop and I couldn't, and I did it, and now my life was being taken from me because of something that I did to myself. I deserve this. Alright, my heart feels really heavy. I'm feeling like a heavy amount of grief. She still lives in the past, like she still doesn't forgive herself for this. If you guys don't know, like I said, Marilyn suffered from depression and stuff like that when she was alive, so she's always had like mental issues since she was a child. She was abandoned, like I don't know, some shit about her mother, and just like she couldn't forgive herself, and she still doesn't. She's saying when you die, all you have left is the memories. Stubborn, all she cared about was what other people thought about her. Status, money, wealth, the Hollywood, the look of it all. But that was never satisfying. Hollywood bombshell. I never got that picture-perfect family. I never got anything that I truly wanted. I was just the look of it all. I was what everybody wanted to be. But if they really knew my life, they would never want to be me. The glitz, the glamour, after all, what now? None of that even mattered. My life was gone, and now I'm shattered. My soul was tortured, beaten, and bruised, and now I felt battered. My soul was never set free because I never forgave myself. I'm still stuck. I'm still living in the past. I still look back on my life, and I'm in regret because this is what I turned out to be, a dead Hollywood bombshell. Obsessed with a man, and that made my life pure hell. It's hard for me to transition over. I spent the remainder of my days unkept. I was never sober. I constantly look back on my life because now it's over. I had it all, and still I was never happy. I just wanted more and more and more, and I would do anything to get it. The Hollywood murder, they were the ones who did it. They ruined my life, and they would never admit it. I'm disgusted. Can I really blame them? Can I really blame them? Yeah, they took my life, but if I didn't ever start any of this, I should have just stayed away from him all to begin with. Now I'm seeing Miss Murray crack open the door. She checks on Marilyn, but she thinks that she's sleeping. But then she sees the phone off of the hook and finds that to be strange. I'm hearing Marilyn was never one to leave the phone off the hook. I'm dead. I'm gone, Mrs. Murray. Just take one final look. Where are my journals? Where are my books? Just look in them. My soul was restless. I watched the doctor check on me, check my pulse, the little black bag he had. I wanted so bad to tell everyone who did this, but I couldn't even talk for myself. I was outside of my body. I was just watching all of this happen. Dressed in all white, but this was no wedding dress. I was dead. She checked on me too late. Come too late. See, there was things that no one ever knew. I knew I was being watched because I could feel it. I just had this gut instinct, like my intuition. That's what I didn't listen to. I didn't listen to it, but it was too late. I knew too much. Legacy. My legacy. This is what I was going to be remembered for. The death of Marilyn Monroe. Not all of my movies, not all of my shows, but the death of Marilyn Monroe. Not all of my hard work, not all of my acting skills. I had this big dream of one day being a film director, writing movies. I could just see myself doing it. See, because back then, this was a man's job. I wanted to see my name in lights, but this time in a different spotlight. That's also why I look back in regret. I let a man control so much of my life, and I never accomplished what I really wanted to do. I put myself in this mess, and I honestly I don't know, I just never thought about how my life could end. I'd never thought it would end. I didn't even see this coming. As hard as it was, I was just finally thinking about letting John go. I was starting to remember who I was before him, who I was without him, who I was before I ever even knew him. I had dreams, I had goals, I had visions. I accomplished being a Hollywood bombshell, a starlight. And I did that. And I knew if I could become that, I could become anything. There was going to be no one that was going to tell me any differently. I was ready to put the old life, the old me behind me. See, because I always went looking for love in the wrong places. Because I was abandoned as a child, so I always looked for that love in men and I could never find it. But here I was, not knowing that it was going to be my final hours. My days of Hollywood were over. It bothered me. Yes, I accomplished my dreams, but I didn't accomplish the whole thing. I missed my big break, my big opportunity. I was never going to become what I truly wanted to be. It all ended the night my life was taken from me. Alright, I'm picking up fear, anxiety, tears, crying. There was going to be no beginnings, no new beginnings for me. I still cry sometimes. The Roosevelt Hotel. People see me there. Hollywood is a place that I never even left. It's where my soul stays. It is where it is kept. I never let it go. I wasn't ready to leave. I don't think I'll ever be. That night they took away my dreams. They took away my vision. I was so close. I was ready to get the ball rolling. I was honestly ready just to wake up the next morning. A new person. A new version of me. I wanted to give the world the chance of someone that they'd never even seen. But that was never going to happen. This was just something that I wanted so bad. The life that I dreamed of, the life that I never had. I just look back on this and I feel so bad. I get mad because I didn't focus on my dreams. I didn't keep myself disciplined. My soul is restless and annoyed just talking about this. I'm hearing the blackballed hit list. I just keep hearing black. I don't know what black means or the color or if it had any significance to her, but she's not saying it. I'm seeing total darkness and it's like silent, like I'm in a place that's just all black, like the curtains are closed. She's saying the curtains are closed, the show is over. I felt burdened my entire life. I'm dead and I'm gone now and my soul just doesn't sit right. The Hollywood bombshell, the star, the light that they took from me. All the hard work that I did, my life was incomplete. I was living an illusion, a world of smoking mirrors. I could never see clear through them. I was always insecure. I knew who I was, Marilyn Monroe. I knew I was the character that I pictured myself to be. All I was just a character, but I honestly never knew who I really was. I spent most of my days in confusion. Some would call this a personality disorder. I always felt like I needed to be someone. I needed to be someone in front of the camera. But when I would go home, when I would sleep in my bed at night, when I could actually sleep, which was like never, this bright young star, this picture-perfect Hollywood actress, is that who I really was? Or was that my character? Is that who I pertained to be? I'm hearing depiction? Nope, that's not who I was. My mind was spinning, I was taking pills, I was drinking, I was trying to escape the reality of my home life, which in reality, there was nothing wrong with my life. I had everything that anyone in this world would have wanted to have, but I still wasn't happy. I never was happy, no matter what it was. The perfection of your life. See, I always wanted more. Enough was never enough. Like, I just wanted to keep going. I wanted to keep pushing myself for these unrealistic dreams and goals that I had. At least a man would say it was unrealistic. I always felt if I got to the next best thing in my life, then maybe I would be happy. But I would just drive myself crazy. There were so many thoughts on my mind between my work, my dreams, my goals, what I wanted for my life, who I wanted to be in life. Would I ever become those things? I just drove myself crazy with all of these thoughts, on top of dealing with John. I was tired. I was exhausted, but still I was thirsty for more. But I was never going to make it. I was never going to be that big success that I wanted to be. Even though the world saw me as a starlight, they saw me as the most beautiful thing in the world, I think. But I was the complete opposite from that. See, I was capable of so much more, and I never got to show the world. I always had to play this dumb blonde, but you see, I was never dumb. I was never ditzy like that. I was never like they tried to portray me to be in movies. It really makes me annoyed and frustrated to even talk about this. I never really learned from my failures, and I was always hard on myself about this. See, because people were already hard enough on me in the show business, but they didn't have any idea of how hard I was on myself. Critically. Internally, they just never knew. But I was living in a man's world. My wish. I don't want people remembering me for my death. My death is not who I was. People can say what they want about me, but they weren't me and they didn't live my life. I was worth so much more than just a Hollywood showgirl. Hollywood, the industry, they took me for a joke. But little did they know, this would be the last they would ever see of me. See, I would never be that big director. I went out in misery. Ha, misery, the company that you keep. I was rich. Back then, I was considered to be one of the most beautifulest women in the world, and I still am. That's how I want the world to remember me. Not the day, not the night that my life was taken from me. I built an image, I built a legacy. See me and my light, do this for me. I just want the world to remember this one thing. You can achieve anything that you want. You can achieve your dreams. Stand up, believe in yourself, and always fight for what you want in life. My death was strategically planned, and they got away with it. Don't be like me. Listen to your intuition. Listen to that little voice in the back of your head, because it's never wrong. I still can't forgive myself for this, even though I've been dead. I've been gone for so long. In the end, I was the one that let them do me wrong.